Hey everyone, this is Flashyou here. Today for our Azeroth Throwback Thursday, we're going to be visiting Northern Stranglethorn. Yaman, welcome to the jungle. Alright, so Northern Stranglethorn is a new zone that was introduced in Cataclysm. Not so new now, though, but, you know, it has been changed since. So the old Stranglethorn Vale was split in half after Sundering, so all of this here used to be fully connected until Deathwing came in, wreaked havoc, created a huge whirlpool, well, pretty much the Sundering, and went on his way. So thanks, Deathwing. So pretty much it created this huge vortex here, as you can see. It is really, really cool. Probably one of the best looking places in a while. Not even exaggerating. I think it looks really, really cool. It's random in the sense that it's kind of like in the middle of like an area, but it looks really, really, really nice. You could actually kind of go deeper into the to the whirlpool, but it won't let you. It's gonna make some funky noise, and you just can't really go into it. So, unfortunately for you swimmers out there, you can't go swimming in the Sundering. I apologize. You can tell Blizzard though. Let them know. But I've actually come here on several occasions to take some really nice screenshots. It's just really, really beautiful. If you actually come in like the morning, the sun will just be right ahead of you here. And it just gives this really nice shining light over here, and it's absolutely amazing. So definitely to keep in mind, somewhere you need to come visit if you haven't already. To kind of keep going here, some of the areas that were effective during Cataclysm, so pretty much for the revamp of Northern Stranglethorn, was Grumgall Base Camp. Not so much that it's changed so much, it's just pretty much that south of where the base camp is and their leaders, there's a big whirlpool here. So essentially, when the Horde players are questing, they have a beautiful scenery to look at, and hopefully not fall to their deaths. P.S. I'm Alliance, as you can see, so maybe I wish that. Alright, so the next part is Nezingware Expedition. This actually had a pretty big revamp. So essentially, it's right here. And there's a nice path now that actually leads you to the camp. Pre-Cataclysm, the camp was not fully, I guess, built, if you want to put it that way. It used to be very small. It used to be controlled by Hemet Nezingwary himself, which now it is controlled by his son, Hemet Nezingwary Jr., and now they have completely rebuilt it. There's some wooden fences kind of barring around it, and a lot more NPCs. So we'll definitely go take a look there and take a visit. Then there is the Venture Co. base camp, which has been deforested by the goblins and their shredders. Those vile little creatures kind of get their payback and what's coming to them while you do some questing in the Nezingwary expedition and the rebel camp. And then there is just south of Ziataje Ruins. I apologize if I butchered that name, but right here there's Fort Livingston to my right, which had been added. So it's just a new Alliance base camp with new quests, and one notable quest is to save the little raptor. So this little raptor is the most adorable thing I have ever seen. Like, actually, nope, that is not it. There you go, Lashtail Hatchling. This is the one that you would receive for doing the entire quest chain. Good to note, though, is that if you do the entire quest chain and you're still about level 25 to 30 in that area, unfortunately you'll have to come back when you're level 85 and then go and save poor little Lashtail Hatchling in Zul'Gurub. Yeah, and if you're wondering, I named it Thalia. I name most of my pets off people that I meet in WoW that have either impacted my life or who I've found very, very funny. So, just to kind of give you some random insight there. And then, of course, there is Zul'Gurub that was affected in Cataclysm. So, essentially, pardon me. Essentially, this became a 5-man zone, so 5-man dungeon, I should say. And a lot of people like to farm it now because there is 2 mounts that drop from it, from High Priestess Kilnara and Bloodlord Mandakir. So I was lucky to actually get some of the mounts myself. So Panther. Yeah, see, and it's actually really cool looking. I mean, as much as it looks really plain, I actually like how plain it is. It just kind of reminds me of the old school vanilla mounts, where all the mounts were really, you know, unarmored, just different color variations. However, the Raptor, unfortunately, I do not have. But as you can see, I have tons of other Raptors, but I do not have the beautiful armored Razashi Raptor. He's still been evading me. Ah, that sucker. I'll get him one day for sure. And so yeah, well, let's start exploring. So the first thing I'd like to kind of show you here, actually just right by the whirlpool, is Lord Banglash. King Banglash, I should say. He is kind of a little lord, though. Where is he? I wonder if someone killed him just recently. Huh. Well, he's usually just lying around here somewhere. Essentially, he is the white tiger, while we kind of wait for him here for a little bit. He's the white tiger that was actually really sought out after, because back in vanilla, a lot of the cooler pets that you can get, you can only be really obtained at a higher level or had like a really low spawn point. So Lord, there he is. See, King Banglash. His color variation, so it's like a white tiger, was really well sought out of because he was just really rare, and he's actually really hard to tame too because he used to be a level 40. Don't quote me on that. Just roughly level 40, but he was an elite. And back in vanilla, an elite would maul your face. So essentially, King Banglash would maul faces. So usually you would have to have someone to come help you tame him if you were level 40 on the dot kind of thing. If you were a higher level, of course, you wouldn't have too many troubles. But he was my friend for quite some time on my own hunter until you know, more expansions came out and more pets came out. And yeah, so on the subject of hunter pets, there's actually a really cool one right here. If you see the pink dot right there, it's another cat variation with like a really smooth golden type of skin and like red eyes. I know this is not super informative because I don't know his name. However, you will find the complete guide on WoW Pets, or you could also find him on one of my coworkers here at Pwnecast. Actually writes articles on pets that you might not have encountered, and he is part of it. And unfortunately, he does not seem to be around. So onwards. So we are gonna head on to Nezingwary's expedition, and we're gonna meet Nezingwary, Hemet Nezingwary Jr., which is this fine dwarf right here. Right here. The little green tunic looks absolutely adorable. So essentially, as you can see, what I was telling you earlier, the path has been created. There's wooden gates kind of surrounding it, and you know, it just looks a lot, you know, more like a real base camp rather than what we had before, which was essentially a quarter of this with no fences. And it used to be, well, maybe it still is. I'm not on a PvP server. You guys can probably tell me, but my experience on a PvP server is that this place was absolutely like a shit show. Excuse my language, but oh my goodness, I would get killed non-stop because back in the day, people would come through here to either gank, or if they were on their way to the Gurbash arena here, they would kill lobies on their way, which is fine. That's totally fine. However, I was get killed repeatedly and get camped, and oh my god, it was just terrible. And yes, you're probably gonna tell me, don't play on a PvP server then. Well, hey, I'm not on a PvP server anymore. That's why I kind of moved from that. Hopefully you guys had a better experience with that, but I used to get killed so much here back in the day. So hopefully it's gotten a little better for you guys there on a PvP server. And now, moving along, I'm going to show you a really cool NPC to keep in mind that you might not know of. His name is Lieutenant, excuse me, his name, Lieutenant Doran. There you go. He is right here. He starts a really kind of long question called The Fate of the Curzon. So just to kind of give you a brief history here, so I'm going to fly out to see where he sends you. So essentially, he and his men, so Lieutenant Doran, were once under the command of Colonel Curzon. And they were on an expedition into Stranglethorn Vale until the colonel and his colonel and the colonel and his closest followers descended into madness. And this madness essentially is just being in the jungle fever. Essentially, just being in the jungle for too long, just essentially drove them mad. So when you're sent here, you're pretty much killing the medicine men and the jungle fighters, and then you're sent in this cave to kill like a bigger boss. So it's actually a pretty cool storyline. And pretty much essentially the Colonel Curzon and his followers all went mad, right? So Doran and the others just rebelled, and this is why it's called Rebel Camp. And pretty much they were trying to find out what happened to Curzon and everyone else, which is essentially the jungle fever I was talking to you about. So essentially you aid him, and you're able to kind of figure out what's going on. And essentially when you turn in the quest, which is really, really frightening a little bit, or like kind of cool, depending on how you look at it, when you turn in the quest, this is what the lieutenant says. So Doran, he says, and somewhat worried about what the lieutenant says after you turn in the quest, is that with Curzon out of the picture, we may be able to continue our original expedition here in Stranglethorn, which was no matter. Wait, what? Why? Oh my god, why does it end like this, right? So pretty much my kind of interpretation of this is that pretty much they just kind of forgot what their main kind of mission was. Like, it's like, it has no purpose anymore, so they're just, it's either they're free from it, or you're not quite sure, are they descending into madness type thing? So this actually gets all answered for you. In Mist Pandaria, in the Jade Forest, this is for the Horde side. The Alliance don't get a look into this, but if you play Horde, you get to see that the lieutenant actually does descend to madness. He becomes a captain, actually. He gets promoted captain, and this is in the Jade Forest. He's the leader of the Thunderhold and Strongarm airship. And then you read his logs and stuff, and you are able to actually know that all his negative emotions have been magnified by the Shah. So ironically, he pretty much is recognized that he's somehow following a similar spiral into darkness that Curzon had. So eventually the Horde adventurers, or Horde players, end up killing him because he's just kind of wreaking havoc in the Jade Forest. So that's kind of spooky. Like, he kind of met the same fate that everyone is, just crazy jungle fever. So I think that's a really, really, really cool story. So definitely take a look into that. So again, it's Lieutenant Doran, and he's just absolutely amazing. And he's actually voiced, cool fact here, he's voiced by Christopher Corey Smith, which actually voices other WoW characters, such as Mal'Ganis, coolly enough. And he also voices like the Vrykul, I do apologize if I said that totally wrong, but essentially the Vrykul are the kind of like the Viking type people with big horns and stuff, and you can actually find them in Icecrown if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. They're essentially found right here in the middle, and I think a little bit over here as well, in the Icecrown Citadel, as well as in Howling Fjord. They're kind of a bit everywhere in the northern section. So he voices them as well, and goes the raw sound. Yeah, that was pretty bad, but he does that as well, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, and here's the, moving along now, this is the Ventrico base camp. When I was saying they kind of just deforested everything and kind of just claiming it as their own. As Alliance and Horde players, you come here and beat the poop out of these goblins and shredders over here. They're just up to no good. So that's pretty sad, because this is a really nice forest. Like, if you take a look at the scenery here, it's just full of forest, and then here's just all chopped off, and you know, their plans are just to kind of chop it all off just for money, which is nope, no good, no good. That's why you go and teach them the lesson. Oh yes, and here, I did forget to mention this earlier, Bambala. This is the new Horde town that was introduced in Cataclysm, so for the Horde side. So essentially, Alliance got Fort Livingston, and the Horde got Bambala. So for new Horde quests, which essentially you were able to get that little cute raptor I was talking about earlier. And good old Zul'Gurub. Oh my goodness, this place is just... oh my god, I'm just in awe of myself. It's just so old, so many memories. I still come here to kind of farm that raptor I was talking to you about before, but you know, when you take a good long look at it, you could tell it's actually quite old. Even just the texture of the place is just not quite full, you know, fully there. And I have a really good graphics card, but it's just, this place is just absolutely amazing. And just to kind of give you a bit of background on it, for some of you that might not know, essentially, like I was saying earlier, Zul'Gurub is formerly a 20-man raid instance for level 60 players, and has returned as a heroic only 5-player dungeon for level 85 players. So pretty much with you kill Hakar in the original one, and he dies, and now there's Jindo the Godbreaker, which returned to take up the residence in Zul'Gurub, and holding the pet of the old god's prisoner. So essentially you go in there and show him who's boss. But it is just absolutely insane, like how cool it looks. And just to kind of give you a really cool quote that I found on Wowhead that kind of explains Zul'Gurub a little bit better. This is really, really cool. So it says, the influence of that savage civilization can be seen in Zul'Gurub's raised platforms and vine-covered arches. Though arguably the most important part of the city's history is recent, it was in Zul'Gurub that Jindo the Hexer enslaved several high priests of the Gurubashi to aid him in summoning their dread god, Hakar the Soulflayer, into Azeroth. The presence of the Soulflayer presented a grave threat to the world, and before Hakar and his priests could dominate the continent, they were thwarted by the dedicated effort of heroes mobilized from the four corners of Azeroth. Jindo was slain in the conflict, but his restless spirit burned with shame at his failure, and it drifted in the spirit world, seeking a way to return and a plan. Jindo forced his way back into Azeroth to call on his allies old and new, the worshippers of Hakar, the exile of Zens, and even Hakar's former enemies among the Zandalar tribe. Together, they will rebuild Zul'Gurub, not for the glory of their defeated god, but to take his brutal power for their own, and see the troll race stand triumphant over a broken world. Like, see, that is so cool. So essentially, you can kind of relate this to, like, politics almost, right? Like, it's just... you know, they want to take back what they claim is theirs, and they want to triumph it over what they think is right with their own morals and their own standards. So it's actually quite interesting. But obviously, these are evil's standards, and what they fight for is not necessarily the good of the world, but that's what they believe is good. So it's always really interesting to see the conflicts arise from it. So yeah, I mean, I hope you guys were able to learn something new today in Northern Stranglethorn. I mean, like I said, I've said it many times, I'm going to say it again, this place is just absolutely gorgeous. Just to kind of fly around and see this forest, you know, kind of reminds me of like the Amazon forest or something, right? It's just so beautiful, and just so many like jungle animals. It's, you know, it's not too fantasy-like, but kind of realistic with some crazy quest lines and stories. So, you know, it's absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for listening in, and my next Throwback Azeroth Thursday is Gilneas. So that you're going to be taking a look at the really cool city of Gilneas. It's one of my favorites, so I'm really excited to show you guys all of that. So thank you so much for tuning in for Northern Stranglethorn, and I hope you enjoyed it. So stay tuned for our next Throwback Thursday Azeroth edition. Bye-bye.